Welcome to my live stream, live from Bangkok, Thailand, on what I think is probably one of the worst days for free speech, American democracy, and what I think is even more important, which I'll talk to you guys about in just a second. And by the way, just to get it out of the way, I'm not a conservative. I'm not a Republican. I did not vote for Trump. I did not agree with everything Charlie had to say. Um, but obviously, this is the end of something that's very important that he was doing that everybody should have celebrated regardless of whether or not you agreed with him. So today is a horrible day for not only the fact that Charlie Kirk's life ended and he was a father, I believe, and a husband and someone's son. It's not only the end um, of his voice, who helped many people, obviously, who agreed with him, but it's the end of the only thing that I thought could save American society, which is the willingness to go to the other side and say, I disagree with you strongly, but I don't hate you. And I'm willing to sit here and talk to you openly about this. Right. And that's what Charlie Kirk was doing, if anything. Right. He was going to the other side and saying, talk to me. I don't hate you. Let's talk. He was the first guest on Gavin Newsom's show, right? The first conservative. Um, if you can't do that anymore in America, and the price that you pay for that is your life, there's no hope for America and Western societies anymore if you can't do that. And I think that is what is a true loss is for everybody. Everybody. Even people who really hated him and disagreed with him, this is a huge loss for you because this opens a floodgate for the other side. Every single person that you now agree with, right? From AOC to, whatever the liberal pundits are, um, now have literally a target on them, right? This is not going to unfortunately stop with this. And in the fact that people who speak out on the behalf of people who agree with them and advocate on behalf a group of people, the fact that now everybody has to worry about their own lives and their life and having their families lose their husband or their wife or their son or their daughter, um, is a whole new low for the American society. Um, I left America for many reasons, but the fact that people could no longer be civil to each other and agree to disagree, and really essentially looked at violence and the cancel culture as the only answer. Um, and well, for over 2 years that I've been living here in Thailand, every day as I watch American news, I go like, yeah, I can't live there. And unfortunately, today is yet another day where I go, what the fuck happened to that country? I'm an immigrant to America. I came to America 32 years ago, and that country has been great to me. It's given me so much. Um, so that's why it hurts to see what happens. Now, what happened to America? Now, I got to tell you, one thing that people I see are doing, including President Trump, which is not helping, is already blaming the other side. Yeah, probably. But let's wait and see what really happened. What was the motivation? Who was behind it? We don't know yet, right? And also blaming the other side again is essentially putting the targets on many other people's backs, which we shouldn't, which we definitely shouldn't do, because when will it stop, right? Um, I understand that President Trump himself was almost a victim of assassination, right? Um, and the the liberal politicians have always been also been the targets, and they have been shot, and you know, but this is a new escalation. um I I the this can easily lead to, a civil war, because, like I said, how far are you going to escalate it? If you think that the other side, there won't be nuts on the other side doing the same thing, um you're living in a la la land. um mm, Nick here in chat says, if free speech is life threatening, then there can't be freedom. I agree. um and now, free speech is usually is a legal term, right? And a lot of people actually misunderstand it. They think that they can go into, a Starbucks and do whatever they want, and it's free speech. It's not. But this is a cultural limitation of free speech, which I've been saying all along. Free speech in America is gone not because of the laws, it's gone because of the cancel culture. When I started this channel, my number one concern was, man, I can never do anything again, right? I cannot have my electric car channel that I had before. I cannot start another sort of public facing business because I will probably be canceled, especially if I stayed in America. And I also, my second thought was my own safety, because at some point I would like my channel to be popular enough where I can make a change, because I'm trying to advocate for men's rights and for men's issues. Is this what's waiting for me if I, end up gathering a decent following? I know some influencers in my space in the red pill community. They're nowhere near as popular as Charlie, right? They're just mildly successful on social media, and they're getting death threats at their homes. Um, with their families there. And they absolutely have to take them seriously, because there are fucking nuts like this who are out there, and and this is what happens now. Another thing that I want to mention is that, you know um I feel like everybody saw the footage, right? I do not want to see a person getting shot in the neck. I don't want to see that, right? I don't care who that person is. And yet now I did. And not only was just a person, it was a, person who I feel like I knew through social media, right? Um, that's another horrible thing that now we all saw. How much more of getting used to violence and actually watching this, can people take, where they just become numb to that? When I was growing up, seeing somebody die in front of you on a screen, was unheard of. You would never see that. Why would you want to? um, and now it's, part of our lives. It is absolutely, it's absolutely awful. Oh, these are some of my raw thoughts. Obviously, I mean, I kind of, I'm in Bangkok, Thailand, so I'm waking up to this. You guys are, finishing your day with this. Um, Obviously, it's important to see the whole investigation through. The worst thing that people will do, and they will still do, is to come to the conclusions based on no evidence whatsoever. Um, George says, Trump promises to want to put an end to this. How is this possible? I don't think it's possible. Yeah, here's the thing. As he promises to put an end to it, he's already fueled it more, right? Because he's already accused the other side. um, that's how you fuel it. That's not how you put an end to it. And I understand that, President Trump, was like, he essentially saw what could have happened to him that day, a year ago, right? But he's a president. He should lead, and he should obviously tell everybody, hey, listen, we need to figure out what happened first, and then we can come to conclusions. But, just like with a lot of news stories that I report that are men's news, when men get accused falsely of sexual assault, and, with no evidence, media in the culture essentially assassinate him culturally. They lose everything, and then when they get cleared, nobody cares. There are no new stories. It's just this guy saying, "Hey guys, remember this innocent man?" Um, so we, obviously the president needs to do better. Again, I've already told you guys, I've been an independent for a long time. I'm not a Republican or Democrat or conservative or liberal, and I really think that today is the loss for everybody. It's a loss for everybody, because this has just killed the free speech culturally. It killed any hope that those people who do extend an olive branch to the other side, and that's what Charlie did. um, this is what they should expect in the future. I think there will be a lot of bright voices and voices that we do need of reason, that will now think twice about having a career in something that people find controversial. uh, and again, Charlie did advocate for men's rights, for boys to not be forgotten, as American culture has. To me, that was one of the biggest problems with Kamala Harris. Even though I did not vote for Trump either, but it was clear that boys were going to be much more forgotten. Um, Recently Barack Obama gave an interview to his own wife on her own podcast, right? Essentially pointing out that liberals have forgotten, boys and men and men's issues, and it's a disservice to all men in America. I felt like Charlie Kirk, again, even though I disagree with a lot of things that he said, he did advocate in good faith for men, for family, which America has lost. America has lost, the understanding of what family is. Single mothers and simp fathers is what America's got now. I remember featuring Charlie Kirk's clip in one of my clips, where he essentially was giving an interview to someone, and the host, one of the hosts said, like, yeah, I go on dates, and it's a 50-50. Everybody pays 50-50 on the first date. And Charlie was like, yeah, you're not really a man. And I agreed. This what the fuck, what has happened to American men? um and look, advocating for men is becoming a dangerous profession. And I'm not just talking about Charlie Kirk. I personally know, I've been doing this for almost a year now, right? Obviously I'm a very, very, very small fish. um but I know much bigger influencers who have gotten death threats, and they now have to live their lives watching over their shoulder. Um, Now, I will point a finger to every single nasty comment that not only I receive, but any advocate for men's rights receives. These are the people who are sitting at home, and they're mainly, women and simps, who have sort of launched this hate war towards men, and specifically towards people who advocate for men. Um, the the I think this is very important to say. Let me phrase it right, but the well, what's the word that I should use here? The co-assassin in Charlie Kirk's assassination today is the social media, specifically TikTok, and in some ways almost all other platforms, because the censorship of people who speak out for men's rights, who speak against woke cancel culture, are extremely heavily censored on TikTok and other platforms, but specifically on TikTok. And the hate towards men and the hate towards people like Charlie Kirk is borderline encouraged. So I would absolutely have TikTok as co-defendant in Charlie Kirk's assassination, whoever that person was. We need to acknowledge that. We need to acknowledge that, you know, um, the bias that these platforms have, who are run by people who Charlie Kirk was criticizing, right, have played a major role in this today. It's again, forget about me, but I'm just experiencing. I can only speak about things that I'm experiencing and seeing other influencers who I'm friends with experience, which is consistent bias towards anybody who wants to advocate for men and against the woke culture. And absolutely, the red carpet gets rolled out to those who um, um, essentially encourage what happened today. But honestly, for the last 2 years, including the assassination attempt on Trump, I don't think I've ever woke up in this much shock and this much fear of what's going to happen next. What this actually, what floodgates are we're just about to open. And again, I hope they find the guy quickly. I really do, because if we're going to blame somebody, let's have the face to blame him. Make sure it's the right guy. Make sure it's the right guy. How many times crimes were blamed on innocent people just because somebody wanted to, have a face to blame. Um, because all this blame and what like I said, what's going to happen over the next even 24 hours and the next 3 days or 7 days, I think it's very crucial um to the American society right now. I don't know how much Charlie really affected other countries and politics in other countries. I feel like he was a very different, definitely an American influencer and a politician. But I'm also curious to see what other conservative pundits and influencers will say about this, right? Will this be, I mean, if anything positive that could come out of this, could it be that, people on the left and the right, who are the thought leaders, the influencers, the politicians, would actually unite over this from both sides? Like essentially what Charlie preached, right? Let's have the olive branch, let's have a conversation with the other side, let's not hate, and definitely let's not be violent. um could this be, if anything positive that comes out of it is that both sides saying, I think we had enough, I think we can no longer go in these opposite directions and hate each other this much? I really hope that if anything comes out of today is that. But my fear, it's going to be the opposite, and that's a slippery slope. Peter in the chat room says, I thought they would learn something from Trump's situation, that all the closed by obvious roofs have to be checked and one security guy needs to stay on each roof. Well, so Charlie Kirk is not a Secret Service protected guy, right? I mean, there is not much of a protection, that he's just a private citizen, and he probably had more security than most people would, at these events like this. And if Trump almost got shot twice with all the Secret Service, right? I it's I gotta tell you that, but also let's talk about Trump taking the Kamala Harris's Secret Service protection away. Let's talk about that. Wouldn't this be a great time for Donald Trump to practice what he preached today, and saying how we need to unite, and we need to come together, make sure like nothing like this happens again? How about giving Kamala Harris's clearance to have Secret Service back? These are the opportunities for both sides, but specifically for the right, to unite the people on the left and on the right. Because if we're going to keep going this way, we're gonna wake up to this news on both sides much more often than we care for. Yeah, this is not, listen, I feel like if anybody really really wants to take somebody out nowadays, they will. There's just too much sort of a freedom to to do that. Too many, access to. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised that the person who shot Charlie obtained the gun, the rifle legally, right? We just like everyone's getting a gun nowadays. I, who is very much anti-gun person, got a gun in America and got licensed and got trained 2 years before leaving. That was an awful decision for me to make, to carry a killing machine and to know that I need to carry a killing machine with me. That was an awful thought. And, living in a country like Thailand now, the fact that I don't have to look over my shoulder and carry a gun because I don't have a need, that just itself was such a huge upgrade for my life, leaving in America and coming to a different country, which in my case is in Thailand. So this is this is what an awful day. Honestly, I'm just waking up to this. I know you guys had some maybe time to process and watch other pundits say things. I did not watch anybody say anything. This is like really just my thoughts without any influence of anybody else. I'm definitely interested to hear what Bill Maher has to say, because I think Bill Maher is really the only other guy on the other side, like Charlie Kirk, who's advocated for bridging the gap and criticize his own side sometimes for not doing that. I'm very curious to see what Bill Maher has to say. Today is what, Thursday, right? So I think his show comes out on tomorrow. um, this is a very pivotal moment in American history, even though Charlie Kirk was a private citizen and just an influencer, because today is either a beginning of a horrible, violent future and many more events like this to come, and a possibility of even a civil war, or the beginning of healing and both sides coming together, which I think is exactly what Charlie Kirk was advocating. Again, I know a lot of people disagreed with him. I disagreed with him on many issues as well. But one thing I always admired him for, and I thought that this was absolutely the most important work anybody can do in politics in America, which is preaching, breaching the gap with the other side, not hating the other side, having an open conversation with the other side, uh, agreeing to disagree, and the fact that that's the person who today we lost. um, it's numbing, honestly. And it's let's see what happens over the next few days and next few weeks. I think it's crucial. I think if anything, this moment needs to be handled in the best possible way by both sides. I don't have high hopes, because again, already Donald Trump, I feel like with some of his rhetorics have set the new chapter up. Um, but I don't have much hope. I don't think that Trump is very good at bringing people together. It is also an opportunity for Donald Trump to do something that he hasn't done before. And if he wants to leave any type of positive legacy, it would be if he could bring people together, not blame the other side, right? Not inject more hate into this, but take an opportunity to bring the other side together and have some sort of conversation. And the beginning of the conversation, Donald Trump is not afraid to go into the other side, right? And facing the other side, but he's just not that good at making peace, which is his opportunity now. If he can bridge both sides, before his presidency over, and his even life is over, right? Because he's almost 80. Anything can happen. And he could carve out a legacy that everybody can appreciate at some point. I wonder if he's going to do that. I hope he does it, but my hopes are not very high. So these are my raw thoughts on what happened. We'll probably, if we know more, if there's any development, I will probably dedicate my live stream tomorrow to this. um, you know I have other men's news that I was already prepared to do. I usually, before I go to bed, I stream in the morning here in Thailand, which is the evening time for you guys. I usually prepare all of my news, all of my clips, all of my graphics and everything. So I will still do the story I was going to do. I mean, that's not going anywhere. But I think, tomorrow I'll probably have some more thoughts on this horrible event. And I cannot stress enough that today is a huge and horrible loss for everybody, even people who unfortunately are celebrating this. There are actually some pieces of shit who celebrate this, and they don't even know that this is a horrible day for them as well, because whoever it is that they're cheering for, this put a big target on their backs. And, one day they can wake up to this horrible news on the other side. I think cheering for violence is awful. I think cheering for this, what happened to the person who was one of the few people in America who I felt like was trying to have at least have a conversation with the other side. Um, I think people who are cheering either publicly or quietly really need to re-examine their lives and their points of view, regardless of their um, affiliation. And those people on the right who are saying, "Oh yeah, well we're gonna," God, I hope you come down and realize that you cannot take this further, because it's going to lead in some horrible events in American history of our lifetime. This is the moment to either this is the crossroads for America, I think. Um, and I'm afraid what America is going to choose. Like I said, I'm sitting here in Thailand. I, I love my new country, you know, but America still. My parents live there. My nieces live there. My friends live there. You know, um, it is one of the saddest days that I remember for America. It's on September 11th. On top of that, right? So I think that's all I have to say right now from my thoughts. Again, these are unfiltered. I woke up to this and I formed my own thoughts, and I really um, um, really didn't watch anybody else. One more comment from Peter. I thought they would learn something from. Oh yeah, yeah. We already visited that. Yeah. So I hope you have a better night. I know we'll all get more information hopefully soon. I know I will see which way the pundits are going, the thought leaders are going. I hope there's a lot of reflection and reaching out to the other side. I hope some politicians and pundits can have some joint statements and maybe even joint um, press conferences or events and conversations. I want to see what Gavin Newsom, since he looks like he's kind of by default right now. I don't even know who the leader of the Democratic Party is right now. I hope he has something to say. And this is an opportunity for voices of the future to lead the country out of this horrible day into a better future. But that country also has a lot of horrible voices that got us here today, unfortunately. um, Cannot emphasize how much social media networks, and specifically TikTok, has to change their policies and who runs um, their essentially censorship departments. um, I cannot stress enough, part of the fault today, no matter who the actual assassin is, lies on TikTok in other social media platforms who have encouraged people on to 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 hate, and those who advocate for a lot of things that Charlie advocated for censors them and a lot of times cancel them. My channels on TikTok, on YouTube, have strikes, meaning that those platforms have already taken steps towards trying to cancel my channel. Reddit banned me within the first 24 hours. And TikTok, um, I cannot stream on TikTok. This is not being streamed on TikTok, because they've banned me from live streaming because of what TikTok is. So today's day is brought to you by TikTok. It absolutely is a co-assassin in today's horrible event, because nobody grooms the hate of the advocates for men and men's rights than TikTok and other social media platforms, by promoting the hate towards men and by censoring and removing accounts that are advocating for men. I already have two strikes on TikTok. I'm not allowed to stream this on TikTok live. Um, and many other influencers who I know have exactly the same thing to say about TikTok. They have absolutely paved the way to the events today. Um, so, re-examining and holding TikTok and other social media platforms accountable for events like today is one of the few things that we absolutely need to do if America can pull itself out of a horrible day like today. So, well, here's an interesting comment. Thank you for not giving up. I'm not gonna lie. I am thinking about giving up because, besides the fact that, the content like mine, advocating for men is being heavily censored by social media platforms. And, I can lose my accounts at any day now. Reddit already banned me. I'm banned from live streaming on TikTok, and other influencers who I know in the same space are experiencing the same thing. Another influencer, Dan, literally left TikTok because he couldn't deal with that anymore. And so not only it's really hard to make a living on this, which I'm absolutely not. It's a hobby at this point. Um, but the fact that my work can be canceled tomorrow by somebody sitting at TikTok and saying, "Yeah, we don't like this piece of shit," he's saying too many things to hold women accountable. And then if I really do become popular enough to make a difference, then I have to worry about being shot, or whatever it is. So yeah, I thought about giving up today. I thought about saying like, yeah, no, no, you know what, I'm out. And another reason for that is that a lot of men don't really want my help, and the help of the red pill community. They're perfectly fine being beta males, being taken advantage of, being a second class citizen in America. And when they hear my voice, they actually join the feminists and the Western women in hatred towards me and other influencers like me. Um, and yeah, I have been thinking about giving up. Um, he also says, really try to reach out to other top influencers and collab. I have, and I have a few of them on my channel, but they've yet to post any type of, shout out to me or any type of promotion or having me on their channel. So yeah, no, trust me, I've reached out, and I am friends with three. I don't want to name them, but I'm friends with at least three or four influencers out there, like friends, like on really good terms. Um, and yet I've gotten any help from them in terms of helping my channel grow, doing collabs and so forth. So, there's only so much I can do, and it's very unfortunate. But like I said, today's events, I am scared for really not just you guys, in America, but I have a family there, right? Um, it's it's a scary time, and obviously my thoughts are going out to. I mean, he has a wife, right? They're a young couple. I don't think they have kids, but obviously he's got parents, and also people who relied on him to guide them in life, right? Knowing that there is a voice for men specifically. Um, that's a horrible day. I'm dreaming of getting to your level. I'm not on any level. I'm not on any level. I had a successful electric car channel for 7 years, and I had to stop it because I knew my sponsors would leave. It would be impossible to run any type of channel or people facing, business, if you're doing this, advocating for men and men's rights. So, it's not, the only reason I'm able to do this is because nobody can cancel me. Well, except for YouTube and TikTok, right? Like, actually, my accounts. But I can retire right now. I already have my income set. Nobody can take that away from me. So I can do this, and I don't give a shit what people think. So I can advocate, but most people can't. um, it is what it is. Now, you also said, invite people to, wait, what happened to my, yeah, invite people to come and interview. I Every time I used to make a reaction video to a woman or whoever, I always put in the comments, I said, hey, I just messaged you. If you'd like to come on and discuss my reaction or whatever this topic, please do. I reached out to all feminist groups that I could find, asking them to join me for an interview. Nobody wants to come on. Nobody wants to do what essentially Charlie was advocating. Come to the other side and have a conversation. None of the Western women that I featured on my channel wanted to come on and speak for themselves. None of the feminist organizations that I wanted to invite and talk about men's issues took my invitation. None of them. Nobody on the other side wants to talk. This is why I admired Charlie, despite the fact that I disagreed a lot, with him. I admired that he was willing to have a conversation, right? And it's, I don't know if it's ironic, but tragic that he lost his life at the very spot, essentially, at the very event where he was trying to reach out to people and have conversations, right? He was in the middle of having a conversation with the other side when this happened. So, horrible event for everybody. And yeah, listen, I'm trying. It's important, but it's only important if men want my help, which a lot of times I feel they don't. It's only important when I can make a difference. But when you consistently being, limited by the social media platforms, but they hate the other way, has the red carpet, it's not always, encouraging. But um, it is what it is. It is what it is. So, all right, guys. I'm honestly, I gotta mourn a little bit in private. And I mean, I know, obviously, I don't know Charlie personally or whatever, but I'm just gonna mourn for the rest of the day. This one thing that I really appreciated about a few people, and I thought maybe we were moving in the right direction of, you know, uh, being able to have a conversation with the other side and not hating them. But that unfortunately ended today. Let's see what happens in the next 24 hours. I'll be back with another live stream and answer more questions. If we have more information, maybe I'll have more thoughts about this. But for now, thanks for hanging out with me. I know it's late where you guys are at in America and Europe. So I will see you guys tomorrow. Okay. Peace.